How much is a mediocre quarterback worth in the NFL today? We're going to dive into that a little bit today. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Um, I like to watch First Things First, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard. I enjoy watching those two go back and forth. I agree with a lot of what they have to say. Nick Wright had a take the other day. It's actually been a take he's had for a while about we're going to specifically Dak Prescott and the deal that he's probably going to get signed for, which is going to be a massive contract extension. His last contract extension was back in 2021, 4 years, $160 million. And he seems to believe, and he's probably right, that he's going to get another massive extension. And I just like to break down, like, do we think that's he's worth it? So let's just dive into this a little bit. So I went back and looked at the last 10 years, starting from 2024, going back to 2015, on who the highest paid quarterback was per year. And some of these names, a lot of these names are very familiar. Joe Burrow is going to be the highest paid quarterback in 24. He was the highest paid quarterback last year in 23. Aaron Rodgers the year before that in 22, followed by Patrick Mahomes in 21, Russell Wilson in 2020, Big Ben in 2019. That was a little bit of a surprise. Jimmy G 2018, Joe Flacco in 17, Matt Ryan in 16, and Big Ben again in 2015. So again, some pretty decent names on that list. However, if you dig into that, the only quarterback on this list that has a Super Bowl in the last decade is Patrick Mahomes. And the year that he was the highest paid quarterback, they didn't even win the Super Bowl. So it's more than 10 years of data showing us that the highest paid quarterback in the league does not necessarily generate results, and let alone win a Super Bowl. And if you dig in that a little further, most of these quarterbacks on this list are, some of them obviously have some Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl years and years ago. Russell Wilson, he won Super Bowl in 2014. So we're talking 10 years ago. We know he just recently signed that massive deal with Denver, and see how that's playing out. Denver's taking an $80-something million cap hit this year just to not let him play. He's now in Pittsburgh playing on $1 million vet minimum deal. And then Joey Flacco in 2017. Obviously he's older. I don't even know if he's on the team right now. Last one in 2012. So again, you're talking several quarterbacks that do have a Super Bowl, but that was years after the before this. And if you look at the last 10 Super Bowl winners, obviously the Chiefs have won the last 2, but if you break this list down, it's not surprising you're going to have a lot of Brady and Mahomes on here. And actually, these two have compiled for 7 of the last 10 Super Bowls. Brady 3 with what 1, 2, 4 with the 3 with the Patriots, 1 with the Bucks, and then Patrick Mahomes won 3 out of the last 5 years. So you sprinkle in there a Matthew Stafford one with the Rams. Let's see. You had the Eagles winning one with Nick Foles, which he turned that into a $30 million deal or something like that. And then you had the Broncos in there with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, one of the best to ever do it. So really, you look at that list, and there's only a handful of guys that are really getting it done. And we know Tom Brady I don't think he's ever led the league in salary at the quarterback position. So just again, let's talk about this. There's a lot of mediocre quarterbacks out there that are breaking the bank for these teams, and I just don't know if this is sustainable. If they should maybe some of these GMs should rethink their strategy. And so let's look at who the top 10 quarterbacks for this year as far as salary are. Burrow, like I said, Burrow's at the top with $55 million, and these numbers are what I was able to find on the internet, Googling, searching. I'm not these this is what I found. If it's not correct, please correct me in the comments. I don't mind being incorrect, just for discussion purposes. So Burrow at 55 million, Goff is coming in at 53 million. Mahomes, after some kind of restructured, he's slated to get 52.65 million this year. Herbert at 52.5. Lamar Jackson at 52. Jalen Hurts at 51. Kyler Murray at 46. Deshaun Watson slated at 46 million. I think that's just salary. I think the actual cap hit is significantly higher than that on Watson. Kirk Cousins at 45 and Josh Allen. So, but if we dig into some of these, I think it's not surprising they're up there. Goff is a little surprising. I mean, he did take Detroit to the NFC Championship game. Had a really good season. After being traded away from the Rams, you kind of thought that he might be left for dead, and he actually, was able to help resurrect Detroit and get them to heights that Matthew Stafford never was able to do. So, but I don't think anybody on this watching this video would think that Goff is the second best quarterback in the league, even though he's getting paid as such. And then Justin Herbert, I think he recently got his extension, but what has he done? I mean, he's on his third head coach. He's 0-1 in the playoffs with a passer rating of under 85. He went for 273 and 1 touchdown. His lone playoff game lost to Jacksonville, not this past year, the year before. And he's, fourth, fifth highest paid quarterback this year. Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to, no slights there. I mean, he's had some playoff struggles, but he lost in, what could have been a victory in the AFC Championship game, lost it to Mahomes and the Chiefs. You take away a couple of boneheaded kind of penalties by other players, and they might win that game, plus a fumble on the goal line. So very close to he's a 2-time MVP. Went to the AFC Championship game, very likely could have gone to the Super Bowl. So I think he's definitely, he's one of the elite quarterbacks and probably worth what he's getting paid. Jalen Hurts coming in next, right after him. Here's another one who has taken his team to a Super Bowl and was, again, very close to winning one. They had a little bit of a down year last year. I think he was battling some injuries last year, so he wasn't quite the same player he was in 2022. But I expect him to be back. I think, they've got a new OC there, Kellen Moore. I think their offense is going to be a little bit more dynamic. Anxious to see how that looks this year. Kyler Murray. So now we're getting some of these quarterbacks that are getting paid in the top 10 and don't have a lot to show for it. So Kyler Murray, he's been battling injuries the last couple of years, but I don't know if anybody thinks that the Cardinals are really a threat to do anything this year. He's 0-1 in the playoffs. The one game was abysmal. He had a passer rating of 40.9, only threw for 137 yards with 2 picks. So it's, not looking good. His overall record, he's 9 games under 500, postseason and regular season. So, you're top 10 paid quarterback and not getting a lot for that money. Deshaun Watson, man, he's stealing money from Cleveland. Looked really good a few years ago when he was with Texas. Obviously he had the personal issues and the allegations and all the stuff, the legal issues outside of off the field. But still, 1-2 in the playoffs, a passer rating of 91. He's throwing for 870 total yards, 4 touchdowns and 1 pick. His last playoffs game was in 2019, so we're several years removed from seeing him even in the playoffs. Maybe he'll be healthy this year. It's a huge cap hit in Cleveland. Cleveland was really building towards something, and I just don't know how long they're going to be able to be competitive in what's arguably one of the toughest divisions in football in that AFC North. You got Burrow and Lamar in that same division. That's a tough division. Then after that is Kirk Cousins at $45 million a year. He's as Shannon Sharp would say, I would say he gets a lot of empty calories. He's been able to play with Justin Jefferson the last couple of years. His numbers have looked really good. But again, here's a guy that's been in the league quite a while now. He's five playoff games. He's 1-4 in the playoffs with a passer rating of 93.7. He's thrown for a total of 1,047 yards, 5 touchdowns to 1 pick. And he's only made it past the first round one time. So Atlanta just spent a lot of money bringing him in, which I know this is another topic, but I mean, you bring him in and then you draft Penix. I think you could have saved yourself a lot of money and you just went ahead and drafted Penix and moved that cap space around to improve that offensive line, defensive line. There's a lot of other areas that they could have improved on that now they can't because they owe a ton of money to Kirk Cousins. I think it's $100 million guaranteed, something like that. So they're in it for a while with him. And then rounding out the top 10 is Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen doesn't have a great record against Patrick Mahomes, but then again, who does? But I'd say he's definitely one of the top tier quarterbacks we have in the league right now. He's 500 in the playoffs. He's 5-5, so he's been 10 playoff games. He's got 5 wins, passer rating of 100, thrown for over 2,700 yards, 21 touchdowns to 4 picks. That's pretty good. That's just those are just playoff numbers there. 21 TDs to 4 picks. That's pretty good. Definitely when you compare it to some of these other names I just listed off. So I definitely think he belongs in there. So again, but you see there's a lot of mediocre quarterback play that's getting paid like they're all the Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, my argument I'm going to make is that if you're not better than Patrick Mahomes, there's no way me as a GM that I'm going to pay you more than Patrick Mahomes. You've got to start. I think they need to start doing these. I think they need to prove it. You got a lot of these quarterbacks that are getting bank off of maybe one season. But they need to do it. They need to do it for more than one season, in my opinion. You need to be able to win. And I know, Nick Wright he argues about the quarterback wins. I think at some point wins have to come into play. He's big on Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was great in college. He was great in high school, but hasn't shown to me a lot in the NFL yet. I mean, I know he was in a tough situation with the Urban Meyer deal his first year and stuff like that. But that's another quarterback that, and he's looking for a contract extension. You got to show something. I mean, you've got C.J. Stroud in that division now. So you've got some serious competition. We're just a couple. Anthony Richardson is also in that. I don't have a lot of confidence in Anthony Richardson, but we'll see. We'll see what he does. I mean, I wasn't impressed with what he did while his time at Florida. I think he's got the measurables. I think his athleticism is off the chart, but it's going to take more than athleticism to play the quarterback position. I mean, there's some that can get it done, but I think that's short lived. But we'll see. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But Trevor Lawrence, he hasn't done anything that's impressed me. And, if I was a GM of Jacksonville, he hasn't done anything that would show me he needs to be one of the top tier paid quarterbacks. So again, we kind of started this conversation around Dak's extension. And if I'm Jerry Jones, there's no way I'm giving this guy an extension before the season starts or during the season. This is a prove-it year. He's got to be a prove-it year. I mean, he's had, I'm not sure what he's on, his 6th, 7th season. Maybe more. I know he's been there quite a while. He's still on that 4-year, $160 million deal. So they broke the bank for him one time. And his overall playoff record is 2-7 in the playoffs. 2-7. America's team 2-7. That's not getting it done. Passer rating of 91. Less than 2,000 yards passing. A lot of empty calories last year, especially 403 yards he had last year in that game, that blowout loss to Green Bay at home. Total playoff numbers for touchdowns is 14 touchdowns to 7 picks. Again, that's not great. And since signing his deal in 2021, he's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's got one playoff win. I mean, Jerry Jones, you paid $160 million for one playoff win. What are we doing? And in those 4 playoff games, he's averaging 292 yards passing, completing 65% of his passes, 9 touchdowns to 5 picks. It's not good. Meanwhile, now let's compare that to Brock Purdy. And no, I'm not saying that Brock Purdy is better than Dak Prescott. So let's not go there. But the argument I would like to make is that I think too much emphasis has been placed on the quarterback position. And if Brock Purdy can take a team that has similar talent to Dallas, to 2 NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl, then I think Dallas really needs to rethink their strategy. Because I don't think there's that much more talent on San Francisco. I would say that the coaching, Shanahan is probably a lot better than McCarthy. I think that's been proven out. So, but again, you've got McCarthy there. You didn't make a change this offseason, so you're stuck with him this year. But again, you got CeeDee Lamb. In the past, you had CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, and you had Zeke, before he fell, went down. Tony Pollard. So you've had some weapons there. The defense has been good. Dan Quinn's had that defense firing on all cylinders the last couple of years. You got Michael Parsons there. So you've had pieces in place in Dallas where you should be doing more. And sorry to say it, but Dak's just not getting it done. There's no way I'm giving this guy that much another huge contract. I want to spend them. I want to spread that money around. You've got to sign CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee is clearly one of the top 3-4 receivers in the league. Some would argue he's 1-2. You're right up there with Justin Jefferson. Michael Parsons is a transformational player. He's a generational player. People have comped him to Lawrence Taylor. I don't think I'd go there yet, but the talent is there. You're going to have to pay this guy. And there's some other positions that you need to address. You probably need some more help in the secondary. You're going to need some, maybe some extra D line, another pass rusher to go opposite side of Michael Parsons. Your offensive line. I know you drafted an offensive lineman in the draft this year, but your offensive line that has been a stable for you for years has aged out. I know one of your guys has left. So, there's other positions of need that you need to think about before you sink another, what we're talking, 4 years, another, he's going to want like $50 million. We're talking about 4 years, $200 million maybe with a, $175 guaranteed or something like that. That's ridiculous. I know the salary cap is going up, I think, after this year. But still, I think there's a lot of other areas of opportunity they could be spending this money. So again, let's just look at Brock Purdy's numbers real quick. So again, in his 2 seasons, he's 4-2 in the playoffs. There's already been 6 playoff games. He's got 4 wins. He's had a passer rating of 96 for 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns to 1 pick. Been to the NFC Championship game twice, like I said. The first one, he basically had his arm broken against Philadelphia. That kind of obviously derailed that game. And then this past year, he led his team back from a 17-point halftime deficit against Detroit, got him to the Super Bowl, and really played pretty well against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Took him to overtime and actually left the field with the lead. So, for a guy that's Mr. Irrelevant, that's getting paid, I didn't even look at what he's getting paid, but we know it's not very much being Mr. Irrelevant. Now he's going to get an extension coming up probably. Maybe later this year, maybe they probably got another year or two. They didn't have to worry about this. But the point still remains is if Mr. Irrelevant can take a team with similar talent to the Super Bowl, then I think some of these teams, and specifically Dallas and several others, Jacksonville, some of these other teams that are looking to extend their quarterbacks, I think they really need to rethink their strategy here and fill these teams out more complete. The NFL is a hard salary cap league. It's for a reason. It's to supposedly try to keep other teams on equal footing for more to be evenly matched, so we don't have these dynasties. And you see right now, Mahomes took a very friendly deal to the Chiefs. He's still getting paid, 10 years, $450, $45 million average per year. But We see how, Brady did the same thing for years, took very team-friendly deals. Now, they didn't necessarily equate it to a lot of talent on the offensive side around him, but he was still able to pull that team to 6 Super Bowls. And then when he went to a team that had quite a bit of talent on the offense, you see what happened. You had Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. He brought Gronk in there. I mean, they had some weapons, and that offense looked really good. And had a lot of pieces on defense, too. So I really think these teams need to start rethinking their strategy and just quit trying to break the bank on trying to keep a quarterback just because you're scared to not have one. I mean, the 49ers are showing that a above average, decent quarterback can get you to the Super Bowl. So why are we spending the entire payroll on what we perceive to be a top 10 quarterback when it showed that the data shows that the highest paid quarterback doesn't get you much? All right, so that's my rant for today. I appreciate you guys joining me today. If you like the content, if you appreciate it, I appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. We're going to add more content. We're in the dog days of summer right now, so we're going to be looking for new topics. So please, put some comments, put something in the comments what you'd like to see us talk about. Appreciate it. See you on the next one.